maintain, it has to lose what Stonewall was. It has to lose what that internal community was in order to be more palatable to an exterior world that forced them open.
Well, I'll tell
I
you what
don't
my
agree
one
with that.
position
I
is on that one thing. Right now, public opinion is at a really crucial point for trans people, state by state. And Republicans, as we know, are pushing more anti-trans legislation now than they have in all of, let me detransition from the accent, than they have like ever before. Like this year is a record-setting year. Public opinion is really, really divided. It's like 50-50. We're winning the battle with momentum, but we need to kill the battle with momentum. And like when we're talking about like what's happening at the legislative level, we need to be able to punish politicians who are anti-trans. And I understand what you're saying about pride needing to be like, you know, this is what we are. We are going to celebrate this. This is about our conversation. This is about our truth. This is about our story. But I also want people to realize there are real political outcomes that are coming and hurting LGBT people as a result of like public opinion not being in the right place. And if you push, and I agree, always push the limits in a certain direction. But would you agree that there is a way to do that? There's always a way to take it too far.
So when you're saying take it too far, are you asking from a um, political advocacy perspective? Obviously, from a political advocacy perspective, you want to put your best foot forward,
Even what's
right?
acceptable with like doing in public, like there's a line of what's taking it too far, what like going too far against the traditional social grain of what's
Yeah.
acceptable in public.
So are you saying so? Like, I guess my concern is like there are two versions of that question. One version of that question is the can it be too far to be productive? That's one question. And the second question is, can it be too far for it to be like morally correct in a vacuum for you to be doing something like that in a public space, regardless of the effect of you doing in a public space on the broader relationship that the community has with the public, right? So like which one of those two are you asking?
I guess I'm less concerned about. I'm talking about the pragmatic implications of it, and you know, the outcomes of how people are going to perceive it.
Yeah, so from a pragmatic perspective, I think it's pretty obvious. Not only should we not have people who are in kink gear, but quite frankly, we should all look like Pete Buttigieg, right? If the goal is to push for gay marriage, you want a bunch of people who look like Pete Buttigieg, who talk like Pete Buttigieg, who are as respectful as Pete Buttigieg, who blah 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 blah. If your goal is to get advocacy simply for should trans people be allowed to use the bathrooms of their choice, the way to do that is to have a number of trans people who are passing, a number of trans people who are probably disproportionately male, a number of trans people who are probably going to be, disproportionately white, disproportionately, all of these things just to make sure that they look like the most palatable version of trans people that could exist, the most palatable version to get the that kind of stuff done. But that's a different question. I don't think it's the only question. And the other question will be whether or not it is wrong for trans people who don't pass to advocate in an imperfect way, or not even advocate, but just exist in an imperfect way from a political advocacy standpoint, right?
Um, I guess I'd want to talk about what the limits are or what the different degrees are, because when I think about what is something that wouldn't be damaging if it was like, let's say for example, you know how the right wing will take like pictures of something and they'll be like, they're really showing these kids drag queen story hour. I think that might be the limit when it comes to like drag. Maybe showing younger people and educating them on the history of stuff like that. I think it should be really focused on like pushing against the social grain in a way that leaves room for progress and education. But I think if you push too far, and too far would be like past the limit of like, let's say there's like a gay dude wearing a banana hammock, a speedo, and like I don't know, and suspenders, and that's all he's wearing. I don't even think that is as socially unacceptable as like the kink wear stuff, like the leather and that stuff. So those are sort of two places that I would put a line on for right now, because I think if you go too far in one direction, you lose the chance to reach people. And it's a really nuanced conversation, of course, because these are different events all over the country, and we're really talking about like I don't know, like our own ideas of what these are going to be based off our own experiences of what we've seen, and some people, of course, are a part of that community, have been at Pride events, but maybe those Pride events that they've been at are far different from a Pride event from across the country or from a different country. So
So
yeah, it's hard.
on a moral level, like the conversation takes place at like, is it wrong for people in kink to be around kids? Because lots of times people's first thought is, well, we used to think that it was wrong for gay people to be around kids, or for them to hold hands around kids, or for them to kiss around kids, because this was like this made it like seem like such a sexual thing, because we're thinking about the fact that they're gay while they're doing this, and now it just seems like uber sexual. But like once it's normalized, we realize that they're like everybody else and that there's nothing wrong with this. But when it comes to kink, is this them just being a kinky person and they just happen to be in public? Or is them being in kink inherently sexual to where it probably shouldn't be around children? Like, this is kind of where the conversation lies.
Yeah, the moral argument's a lot harder and more convoluted and complex than
Wait, so
what I'm talking
are we
about.
saying that sexuality shouldn't be around children?
Yeah, we're saying that like outright sexuality shouldn't be
Really?
around children.
Sexuality
That
Yeah.
seems like the wrong answer.
Mm,
That seems
Like
like the wrong answer.
explicit like, so something like you know, your parents are being heterosexual and like kissing each other, like that's not like an explicit act of sexuality, right? But like um but somebody who wears clothes
I'll cover
specifically
the
to
Jimmy
get
Dore
off,
thing.
that's a little bit different. And
Foreign
I
policy
like,
depends on the
we can
topic.
take this, we
I'll
can
cover.
see where
Oh,
we
if you're
draw
gonna
the
ask about the
lines and
Assad
say
thing, I'm
like,
gonna look into
well,
that and do some
women
research on it.
wear
But
lower cut shirts because they think like this is
I'm
what
gonna
men like, or
react
what
to
they
the
get
Jimmy
off
Dore
on,
Kyle
right?
drama
So
tomorrow
like,
night
we can
on
start
stream,
to
probably.
wonder where we draw these lines, but it seems
Yeah,
as
I've
it
never
if
strikes
talked about
me.
this
kink
kink and pride
clothes
thing
are
before. Now I'm talking about
specifically
it years
just
later.
for getting
Years
off,
later.
or just for like an actual sexual act. And yeah, that's kind of where
So
the
like,
issue.
okay, let's take two examples. There are people who walk around with collars on, right? Is that a sexual thing?
It depends. Like, what matters is whether or not
It's
this
a
is
collar
sexual.
that signifies a relationship between that one person and another person. Is that a sexual thing?
Jolah, we got to figure out. Let me. I'm sending you my name right now.
All right, I could run some Call of Duty.
Yeet.
Are we talking about morality or real life implications? Because wearing collars in general is pretty socially acceptable, I think, for anybody at this point. Unless if you mean like a
Collar is
different
like
kind
a
of collar.
necklace.
You mean like a
Yeah,
necklace collar or a literal collar with a leash on it? Because that's a totally
Maybe
different
collar with a leash
conversation.
on it. Yeah,
A
collar with a
leash.
leash.
yeah.
Or
I
let's not put the leash on it, because the leash component suggests that there is a physical interaction between the two people in that moment. Let's just say that it's a collar that could be leashed but isn't currently leashed.
Okay.
that's
I don't
probably
know, because there are collars that like that girls wear, or like they're not called collars, but they're like necklaces that look just like collars, right? It's hard to like draw some sort of line there, but I think that if we know that something is there for a sexual reason for somebody else to be getting off, yeah, I don't think you should be getting off around kids. I have
So
an issue with that.
yeah, so the reason I'm bringing this up is because like When I see a collar, I don't see that as fundamentally different than the idea of a ring around someone's finger. Like, why are those different by categorization?
Just put my username on the screen for everybody, Jolah. I'm just kidding.
You're gonna get
why-
swarmed
what-
by
I
my
don't
5
care.
viewers.
Yeah, I don't care.
What the fuck? Oh, you meant like his private. Never mind. That would make
By
sense.
the way,
put
everybody
social
in
security.
Jolah's chat, y'all quit screwing around. You need to get some thumbs ups in there. All right. We got 6 people watching and only 5 thumbs upsies. Oh, 7 people watching and only 5 thumbs upsies. Like, this is kind of messed up.
I haven't streamed on here for freaking 2 weeks. I don't think. Oh yeah, the Jimmy Dore drama. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out then. Young Chino, the dive with Jackson Hinkle. I remember him.
And the stream dropped.
Well, the friend request sent, so that's a good thing.
Ghost.
Great insight. Let's see. He seems very knowledgeable on the subject, but I don't really trust him. From what I know,
I don't know. I'm about to just tell everybody
people
to
I
just
know
go
in
over to your
international
stream because
politics or
I
whatever.
can't get this to work.
I think Vosh and Dylan's perspective is correct.
Yeah, I'm rating you. Made it 17 minutes.
17 minutes. Woo. I'm trying to get some duty going. I sent you the friend request. I'm trying to go for a big kill streak. What's your take, Quibbles, on Assad?
Are you in?
Oh wait, I'm muted. I sent you a friend request.
Oh, you sent me.
Yeah, I sent you.
I accepted the friend request, but
I was asking.
I'm joining the game now.
I was asking Quibbles Coffee. What his take is on Assad.
Do you play Warzone?
I don't play Warzone at all. No.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the restroom real quick.
Everybody wants to know about
start it
Assad.
up if you want.
What's up,
What do you want to know about
Sassafras and Freddy? 1 second. Let me put my other headphones on. I'll be back in 2 seconds. Oh wait,
Sounds
where
like
are
a-
they? Oh no. Oh no, they're missing. Oh no, I'm blind. With my ears. Oh no, where's
my
my
God.
headphones? Ow. Headphones.
Oh my
where are
God.
you? Headphones.
He's wearing headphones. There are other headphones. There's so many headphones in this experience.
Headphones,
Oh
where
my
are
goodness.
you?
Will he find his headphones? His headphones. His
Where did
headphones.
he go?
I have found my mic.
You were here
My
before.
mic.
Headphones.
I'm gonna change my mic to the quality mic
Oh,
because
come
I'm very
on.
high quality. That's
There
how
they
high
are.
quality works.
They tried running
High
away from
quality
me.
is when you get a
Headphones tried
Samsung
running away from me.
Q2 microphone. Very exciting.
Okay.
I wonder if Jolah can hear me right now. I don't think he can. It's okay.
Buy a
Let's
boat.
try. Chat can hear me. And that's
Okay,
what really
I'm back.
He's back. Oh my goodness, he's back.
There was a big debate between like Vosh, or they didn't directly debate, but like Vosh and Kyle Kalinske. Vosh was reacting to the one Kyle Kalinske take on Assad.
My
And,
favorite kind of debates are the debates that don't actually happen because both people are cowards. That's my favorite kind of debate.
It's funny, after Vosh went on Kyle Kalinski's show, he stopped being nice to Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball. After he actually got platformed by them.
They're being too nice to them. Everyone's like, nah, you're being nice. You can't be nice. The whole point of you as an entity online is to be an asshole.
Well, I think it's
Which
funny.
admittedly is the whole point of the existence of both Destiny and also Vosh.
But it shows you the calculation of Vosh, though, that he was willing to be, super nice to them. And then the moment he goes on the show, he gets on, they platform him. The moment they platform him, he's back in attack mode. really interesting to see that from people with how they approach their like engagements.
His goal is to grift for the views. It's all about the views, the views, the views.
Yeah, it is. Where's Tom at? I'm trying to play Call of Duty real quick. Who's in this
Ladies and
chat?
gentlemen,
Tom.
can you hear me better now? Is it better? Can you hear me? And my voice is voluptuous and
Mhm.
perfect.
Beautiful.
That's so wonderful. I mean, my voice was always voluptuous, but you couldn't hear it quite as well. Without
Can a
Trespass
has no
voice
power.
be voluptuous?
Baylor.
That's
I hate trespass. Baylor
No, I do what I
trespass.
want. Okay, I do what I want, and I call
thought
my
you-
voice voluptuous because I want.
All right. I'm starting this Call of Duty game. Trying to run.
Wait, but anyway, tell me about this Kyle Vosh drama. I need to know about the Kyle Vosh drama. It's very important.
So there's a big drama with like Jimmy Dore and Kyle Kalinske, and Vosh was reviewing it, and this started this whole Assad was brought up, and I guess the position essentially from like Kyle Kalinske and like Tulsi Gabbard and Jimmy Dore and that side, their position is that Assad did not do it, did not do the chemical attacks on his own people, and the Vosh Dylan Burns position is that Assad did do it. So yeah, it's from 2018, 2019. Yeah, so 3 years ago, basically. So that's the big debate here. Did Assad do it? And because some people really want to defend Assad, although there's a lot of other reasons to not
Why do we
like him.
care?
But
Why do we care?
I
Is there anyone saying that like he hasn't obviously used chemical attacks before, like ever in the history of him running the country? I don't think. Like I assume that they
No.
both would. That he has in fact used chemical attacks because obviously.
Well, that's
he
why
has-
it's so weird why they want to defend him so hard on this one instance, or not the yeah.
Also, yeah. Like I don't think if your goal is to say that Assad is an asshole, like congratulations, you're right. But also if your goal is to say that like we shouldn't be in Syria and it's not advantaging our country, like that's also right probably. And certainly it doesn't that's
no.
like, saying that this one individual attack wasn't real
I have to
doesn't
back
hate the
out.
fact that obviously Assad is a terrible person, right?
That's the thing. You could do, like you said, you could hold both positions. You can be against the U.S. going into Syria and bombing everything, and say Assad did do it and you could say the
Hey.
chemical attacks. What's up, Tom?
I gotta back out for some reason. It switched from my controller to the keyboard. I can't
Alright.
play on my keyboard.
Leave with party. But yeah, wait, who gave a super chat? What the hell? How dare you give
got
me
one.
money? Who
How
did
dare
that?
they give you $5?
You're getting banned.
Who is
Cockeyed
this
Rooster.
fucking asshole who dared to file you?
Cockeyed Rooster
money?
is the best. Thank you, Cockeyed Rooster.
What a
Can't
piece of
stay. Those are the big ones. I can't stay, but I'm still gonna get. But yeah, you can say Assad did do it. He did many attacks. He
But who
was
cares?
terrible. And
Like, genuinely, who
the
cares?
overarching point is like we shouldn't be doing this in Syria, right? That can be your argument. But the weird thing
Yeah.
is that the Kalinske and Dores and Tulsi, they want to defend Assad. That's what's weird
Well,
to me.
I
I don't think it's necessarily like I don't know. I don't know how much I want to defend Jimmy Dore or Tulsi Gabbard or any of them, but like that said, like it can be true that like one given thing he is not guilty of. Like you can say that like Trump is not guilty of lying about the election results in New York. And that's true. He is not guilty of lying about the election results in New York. Now he is guilty of like lying about a lot of election results, obviously, but his lies have not included New York. And so explaining that he's not guilty of it in New York, I don't think is necessarily like carte blanche defense of Trump. It's just a factual statement on an individual state. Similarly, you can say that obviously he has used chemical attacks on his own people. That doesn't mean that he did in this particular case, right? Now, to be clear, I don't care that much. So I will not pretend to be an expert on this given chemical attack because I don't care that much, because obviously the people are dead regardless of who killed them. And also, obviously, Assad is a piece of human trash regardless of, and so is like ISIS and so is Russia, etc., regardless of which one of them did this particular attack.
Um, the one, well, yeah, okay. So if we know he 100% did do the other chemical attacks, of course, that doesn't mean we can't just say he did do these. That's what you're saying, right? We can't just say he did do this because of the prior ones. But it is weird, and oh my God, is it Aaron Mate, the guy's name? The whistleblowers that were supposed to like say Assad didn't do it. It's really weird how, and we'd have to talk about this for a long time. But a lot of the people that were saying this are involved with like Russia, media and Russian media, and they're tied to Syria, of course, or they're like, or they have traveled with Syrian officials, which was really weird to me, because if you are traveling with these officials, it's just weird how everybody who holds the position that he did not do the current attack, all of these people have some tie to this in some weird way, or they're like this weird like populist far left fringe, like I'm not saying Kyle Kalinske is that, but like the Jimmy Dore Tulsi type, where it's weird how they like agree with like far right nationalists on certain things. It just, I don't know. So that's all I know about it. I need to look into it a lot more though. I haven't read the reports. Yeah, there were some reports out of Syria that got like later information that changed the findings. So there's a lot of complicated stuff about it. But in the end, it doesn't really, when we talk about is it justified to go into Syria, this one chemical attack, I don't think changes what that debate would be.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think as a general rule, like when we're arguing over facts, I think that there are enough facts that people don't agree about that really matter a lot. So like the fact that Biden won, there are a lot of people who don't agree with that fact, even though obviously it is a fact. Those are the facts that I focus on from a political advocacy perspective. And like the fact of the matter of, whether or not Adams was in fact a hermaphrodite in the 1800s or wherever it was, the fact of the matter of whether or not Jefferson was in fact dead, like all of those fights that are that old, I just don't care about. I don't care that much about like deciding yet again, the Gore v. Bush discussion. Yeah, and that's obviously much more recent, but it also doesn't matter that much.
Hey, real
Tom,
quick.
you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. So, or wait.
It says you're a mouse still.
I'm out of chocolate milk. I need more chocolate milk. I'm sorry.
I'm having all the problems today, dude. Well, actually, this is every day.
That's a problem. I need chocolate milk. I will be back shortly for more of this after my chocolate milk. But I love you both.
Okay. So it says my bit rate is 2500 kbps.
Okay.
And rate control is CBR. I feel like I normally kept it on something else, but I don't know what any of this stuff means.
Oh, your controller's on now. Okay, good. Are Tom's viewers still here? Sassafras, Freddie Drongo.
They're not going anywhere.
Are you here? They haven't said anything in a while. I don't know. They might have booked.
They're
cheating on us.
They stick around. They'll be working and doing all sorts of stuff while they're hanging out.
Powerful. There they are. What is the good chocolate milk in North America?
I heard chocolate milk.
I feel really bad about this because I know it's morally wrong, but I drink Fairlife chocolate milk.
That's morally wrong.
It's terrible.
You can't do that. That's morally wrong.
It is. It's terrible. I need to stop doing it.
Don't do that. Why would you do that?
It's
do you
good.
Hate,
I
do
love
you hate
cows.
America?
I love
do you
cows.
hate America?
They treat their cows bad, okay?
Do you hate America? Then why are you doing un-American things?
What is un-American?
The wrong kind of chocolate milk?
You said keyframes is 2, right?
Admittedly, I assume that Giant Eagle is not particularly good to their cows either.
I think Fairlife had a scandal, and
Did they really?
The only reason they did, yeah, but the only reason they did is because they got caught. Like, I mean,
yeah. What really matters when partaking in chemical attacks against your own citizens is don't get caught. That's what matters.
What's your take on Chick-fil-A? Should you be able to eat at Chick-fil-A? Do you know Chick-fil-A? Are you familiar?
Of course I know Chick-fil-A.
Are you familiar with the
yes.
best chicken in America?
Dude Bro is dead. It's run by his kids now. Dude Bro is dead.
Like they're still
super
donating to
homophobic one?
anti-LGBT stuff.
Yeah, but the super homophobic one is dead, isn't he?
I think so. But the families,
So who
yeah.
cares?
But isn't like the family still super homophobic?
Yeah, the family's homophobic.
I don't know. Should I not be able to get Nike?
That's what I say. Okay,
Because-
so I had a conversation
Yeah,
a little bit ago.
because they help Black Lives Matter and they support people who kneel
Nike
during the
has
national
like
anthem.
child slaves.
Oh, well,
Nike
that's
does have child
kind of
slaves.
bad as well.
Let me tell you, okay? Somebody put up a
Look, I'm all
story.
for children and I'm all for slaves. I just don't think there should be child slaves.
Listen,
you know?
no. Somebody on their Instagram story said, if you eat Chick-fil-A, you are homophobic. Or, no, you are transphobic. And I
Newsflash.
said to them, I slid up on their story, and I said, oh, so you're pro-slavery. And this person, and she's like a big social justice person. She said, what? I don't support slavery. But I'm like, wait, how are you messaging me right now? She's like, on my iPhone. I'm like, you do realize in order to make that iPhone, a lot of slavery went into it. She's like, what do you mean? And I said, of course,
What do you mean?
if you're calling me
You
transphobic for
culture.
eating at Chick-fil-A because they donate to candidates who are anti-LGBT,
Ah!
then you are pro-slavery for using
Oh,
your
that's such a
iPhone.
good argument.
And she
That's a
said,
good argument.
I'm done having this conversation.
Yeah,
We can
course
agree to
you are.
disagree. And I said, not really. You have to be consistent with this. If you're going to be
You're a
morally righteous
exploiter.
about freaking Chick-fil-A, of all things. Now, if you're going to take a sacrifice, like if you're going vegan, I respect that. You know what? I respect that. I think it's morally wrong to
Nah.
not be vegan. I do believe that personally, but I am not vegan. I respect people who do take that leap to cut out all the meat and stuff because it's hard for me to do that. I respect it, but
No.
the thing is, let me kill this guy. I got a big boom boom coming his way.
Oh my god, I'm so ready for your boom
Nice.
boom. I mean, there's gonna be a delay before I can see your boom boom, but I'm watching your stream and I'm so excited to see your boom boom.
Where'd this guy go? Did he jump out?
Holy shit! Is there gonna be boom booms?
Oh no,
I'm so
missed.
excited for
The boom
booms.
boom missed. Yeah, but
Which
that, you know, going vegan I think is a decent sacrifice to make, but not going to
I need
Chick-fil-A,
a freaking gun.
like,
Yeah,
oh
I don't
my
know.
goodness.
I just feel like, I mean, to clarify, I don't have any love for Chick-fil-A. I think
I
their
do.
chicken tastes like rats.
Nah.
Have you ever eaten
I'm
a
not
rat?
having that slander here.
Have
Compared
you
to
ever
what?
eaten a rat? Have you ever eaten a rat? I
Yeah,
Have you ever
Jolah.
eaten a
Tastes like
human?
Chick-fil-A.
I bet it's
Nope.
all how you season it. Have you
No. I've
ever eat
eaten a
shark?
rat, and a
Did
rat
you eat shark
tastes
before?
Like, yeah, I have. Tastes like chicken.
Yeah,
But not like
exactly.
Chick-fil-A. You know why? Because Chick-fil-A tastes like rats.
No, but Chick-fil-A tastes like, you know, rats. Sharks taste like rats. Rats taste like chicken sharks. They all taste.
No,
they're-
that's silly.
what does human
Chicken
taste like?
shark?
I've never eaten human. I mean, well, actually, that's an interesting question.
Well, actually, I know
Are-
all
are-
information.
If you've
and-
eaten your boogers, is that human? Are you eating human?
Ooh. Now
If
we're
you eat
getting
your
into
nails,
the
is that eating human?
truth of it.
No. If you drink cow milk, are you eating cow?
Well, if you have like when you eat beef, you're eating cow, but you're normally only eating like one part of the cow, right?
We got beef.
Mm.
Arby's, we got the meat. Arby's is gross. I think we can all agree that Arby's is gross.
Yeah, but it's deliciously gross. Some things are like incorrectly gross, and
indulging
other
in
things
it.
are correctly gross.
I feel so sick after eating it, but I need to eat it. There's no way. There's no way I cannot eat Arby's.
They have the
it's so
meat.
bad.
Who
Yeah.
else has the meat?
No one else has the meat, so I gotta eat Arby's. My favorite. I wish I had more options, but I eat mostly Burger King, I guess.
Bro,
Mm.
I seriously can't find a good gun anywhere. Every time I went to go get a good gun, you
Yeah,
grab
finding
it
all the
right
white
before I
guns.
could
You
take
know
it
the
out.
whites are the worst. Okay, killed someone.
Yeah.
Stoner. Tactical rifle.
There we go. Oh, this one is white, but it's good.
Did you just steal a rifle from a human being?
Yep. No more Second
You just
Amendment right
took
for
their
him.
rifle. You
Me
just
out the
like
bus.
straight up. That is thievery.
He took
Way to
his
kill
Second
people. But
Amendment.
don't thieve.
I beat him in combat. I was watching a Sam Cedar libertarian. Oh, there's a bad guy. Yeah.
You were watching Sam Cedar libertarian debate?
Yeah, those are funny. But the one guy
Yeah,
was talking about monopolies and how like monopolies would be dealt with in a libertarian society, and it was so funny because he's like, if there's an unjust monopoly, we just need to assassinate the CEO. All we gotta do is
Oh my
Jesus Christ.
Bro, I just had
You
a
need to
debate
It was
with
so funny.
Assassinate the
with
CEO?
and Cap
shall
the
kill
other
him.
day. It
Jeff
was
Bezos
so
dead.
rough, dude. He didn't respond to a single thing that I said. Yet, like everything he's saying, like he's just kind of making like random descriptive claims the entire time that are like completely irrelevant, right? But my chat the entire time, they're like, Tom, you're getting destroyed. He's right. He's right. I'm like, I don't care that he's right. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. They're like, nah, dude, he's right. Like, what? Why?
Listen, the sky is blue. All right, water is wet.
Yep.
Foolery destroyed. Water is in fact wet. That's interesting. I'm not sure water is wet.
I want to debate Destiny on money and politics. I think I'm gonna DM him one of these days. I'm gonna send him a fat DM.
Are you going to destroy him in the free marketplace of ideas?
I'm actually
I
gonna
like
heavily
money and
prepare for this.
politics.
You can't destroy Destiny in a debate. He has built-in safety measures because if you beat him in a debate, he just like acts like he got.
yelling.
Well, not even. The one thing
Oh,
he
yeah,
does is he'll be like,
reverts
"Oh, I guess
back.
that's new information. I mean, I guess I sort of agree. I can't argue against that." Because he never like, I don't know. When he loses debates, he takes it in stride. So it's hard to get him like embarrassed on something.
I don't know about
Right.
that.
I don't know.
I think that a couple of times, like I forget who it was, but there was some lefty professor who came on
Oh, I got
and it was just
killed.
like pummeling him with facts. It was definitely not what's his face, the Marxian one, the Marxist one, not Marxian. What the fuck am I saying? But like there was some other lefty who came on
They
and
up
was like
there?
arguing in defense of like something to do with police brutality. And essentially he just like very quickly tried to get this guy off of the show and was like, I don't know, I'd love to talk to you at a later date, but like blah, 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 and made up some bullshit about how he was like not able to talk to this guy, and then kept on streaming after. So that's one thing that he built in, but he also just like he does yell a lot. Like he's like all of these people are dicks. Like I feel like every single person who's successful on Twitch is a dick. Literally all of them.
Did you watch my
But-
debate with him on Katie Porter?
I watched part of that actually. Yeah.
I couldn't even get my points
Yeah.
across. Okay.
Ah,
Well, you were basically saying that, like, even though Katie was saying nonsense, that it was like necessary from a political strategy
she wasn't
perspective.
saying nonsense. She was doing like very, very, very slight adjustments to her rhetoric to make it more palatable for people to like understand. Like the bubble she was displaying about what the company spent on D&D versus or aren't D&D
R&D.
on D&D. Your company spent all your money on Dungeons and
On
Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons. No.
No, but I
My-
was
my,
arguing that you need to frame
yeah.
things in a more populist way sometimes, even if you're not going to be telling the absolute perfect truth. The absolute truth is very rare in politics, but he was unwilling to engage in that extremely like nuanced.
Yeah, this was like R&D
Combo
versus
with me.
buybacks.
Yeah, but I
Like,
was saying
The
like
amount of money that
Come
that was being
on.
spent on R&D versus buybacks.
yeah, so the companies were increasing their prices without increasing any R&D. So they were justifying price increases by saying we need this money to research more, but they weren't researching more with the extra capital they were receiving, and they didn't need. They did not need to raise any more revenue to do more R&D because they already like capped out. They were already over investing in R&D, and when they got their big tax cuts, all that money went to buybacks. And even after the buybacks, when they spent all that excess capital on the buybacks, they still raised costs. So they already maxed out on R&D. Then they got the big influx from like the tax cut from Trump. They spent all that on buybacks, and they kept on raising their prices. And they said, "Oh, we need this for R&D." So I think that is dishonest. The way Katie Porter presented it, though, was in a really populist way. But I'm okay with her doing that because in a democracy like ours, you need to really convince people to care about something really, really hardcore in order for them to do like any action on it. Even if you're not going to be representing that in what is considered to be the perfect, absolute truth.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Well, so most investors invest within like a given industry, right? Like people who are like professionals and are making decisions in terms of investment at like large scale. Most of them are responsible for a given industry. They're like experts on pharma specifically. So when you do a buyback, the effect of a buyback is that you are essentially making that company smaller. You're not making the amount of money that the shareholders have smaller, but you're using that money to buy back either to buy back stock, or you're making the company smaller by doing a dividend, by giving money to the people who own stock, right? And in both cases, you're making the market cap, the value of the total amount of stock left less because you're buying it back, or because you're giving out a dividend. In both of those cases,
Well,
the total amount of money that company has decreases. Right?
Well, I know the argument was that he got really mad about is, of course,
Yeah.
if a company has extra capital, they should do buybacks. It's what they're gonna do. If you're a
Yeah.
government agent, or if you're a policymaker
not
and
just-
you give them
But
extra capital,
not just from a corporate perspective. It's my point though is like that's true. Obviously, from a corporate perspective, that is the correct decision fiscally from the perspective of the company. But from a governmental perspective, that you're encouraging buybacks within pharma companies is not necessarily bad either, because the effect of that is going to be that you are reinvesting that value, reinvesting the money that has been given to those shareholders, and they're likely to. I mean, these are people with lots of money. It's not like they're just like sitting on that money. They're going to reinvest it. The question is, where are they going to reinvest it? And the answer is almost certainly back into our economy, but specifically almost certainly back into pharma. To
but
other
the
pharma
thing
companies.
was about drug costs. That was the main issue. And Destiny, what he yelled was, a company is supposed to make money. Why is Katie Porter criticizing them for making money? And that's when I said it's okay to moralize something like that. Like, oh, the company could be lowering their prices. Their job is to make money, of course. Their job is to spur reinvestment into their own company. They want to be, attract more people that want to support their companies. They don't want to lose any like all that stuff. That's what they're going to do naturally. If you give them the leeway to do that through policies, like for example, the 2017 Tax and Jobs Act from Trump, if you give them that leeway, they are going to do buybacks. Like, of course, they're going to do that. That money probably could be used for better things elsewhere when it comes to lowering drug prices. If you want to, and another one of our arguments was. Oh wait, Thomas people on. There's an aid station on the ground, by the way, if you want to buy me back. Or there's one over here as well. It's outside.
Wait, as well.
There's like buy stations all over the place. I tagged 2 of them.
Okay.
So there's one.
Tag the other one again.
Yeah, 130. Oh, he's up there. No. All right. I got another one.
Wow.
What are we talking about? Katie
Porter.
Oh yeah,
about
her
bottleneck.
moralizing this economic concept. So the economic concept is if you give them the leeway to do buybacks, they're going to do buybacks. You can't blame a company for a policy failure. But Katie Porter was blaming a company for a policy failure, and Destiny would prefer that Katie Porter would instead do a presentation on why this policy was bad rather than say company bad. So he was looking at it in a really strictly like economic, rational actor sense. What is a company going to do when they have the extra capital? But what I was arguing is it's okay for Katie Porter to moralize it. And this is what Bernie Sanders does with insurance companies. Moralize it and say, how dare you raise your prices while not investing anymore? You're saying you need this extra capital to invest more, but that's not really what you're doing. And if the company that she's talking to, the CEO that she's talking to, wants to be honest, they can literally just say, hey, sorry, our job is to make money. Our job isn't to give lower costs to customers. They can say that. They weren't saying that either. They were lying and saying their costs were going up because of a need for capital to invest more in R&D. That would have been completely truthful if they would have just said, we're making money. Sorry, Katie. We are making money. We are following this really shitty market right now. But they didn't say that. So therefore, I think it's
Were they
okay if she
saying
moralizes
specifically
it.
they were needing? Did they say specifically that that particular company was trying to get more R&D, or were they saying that the industry writ large needed more R&D?
No, they were
Because I think
saying
the first one
that
would be
our
dishonest. The second one would not necessarily be dishonest.
they were
right?
saying that she was saying, why did you raise your prices, or why are your prices going up? And they said because of R&D. But then she's like, but your R&D wasn't increasing. Your R&D was capped out. And then you spent all your extra capital that you did have from the tax cuts on buybacks. So why are you still raising costs if you don't need extra capital for R&D? And they wouldn't just say we want to make money, because at that point they're charging what they can,
But the
like any
yeah, but
business would.
the point can be that like if R&D, so if you're looking at an individual company, that can be the case. But if you're looking at the generalized industry as a whole, and you say that R&D costs in general for the entire industry are increasing, and therefore because in general R&D costs across the entire industry are increasing, the effect of that is going to be that therefore the cost is going to increase for this particular person. So equivalent could be that you could say that like the cost of housing is increasing. And therefore, because the cost of housing is increasing, that is going to have an effect on, let's not go with housing. Rather, the cost, the amount of money that people are paying for property taxes is increasing. And because the amount of money that people are paying for property taxes is increasing, the quality of the schools is increasing, right? So that's one thing you could say. Now, even though that's true at a citywide level, that the cost of property taxes are increasing and therefore education is getting better, you can say as an individual that my individual cost of payment for property taxes has not personally gone up. It's just gone up at a writ large level, at a citywide level. So the cost of R&D.
Back up.
Oh, I'm so proud of you. That's so good. So the cost of R&D at a industry wide level could be increasing without it increasing at the level of the individual company in a similar way.
Even throughout the industry, that tax bill gave a lot more money to a lot more companies, and they all took the route of, like they should, because that's the company's duty is to make more money. They said, we are going to increase our profits. We're going to charge a lot for whatever. We're going to spend normal R&D, and we're going to use all this excess capital on buybacks. If they wanted to, they could have used that extra capital where they needed to, and also kept prices either stagnant. I don't know. Either stagnant, or they could
He
have...
just killed me right there. He's up there.
I'm looking at the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office.
But the debate
and
was on her rhetoric.
Yeah. No, I know, but the amount, I think that I'm actually on Destiny's side. Or I don't know the specifics of Destiny's side, but I think I disagree with you on this at the very least. Because if I'm looking at the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office right now, the amount that's being spent in total, like industry wide, by pharmaceuticals, since 2015, it was at like $20 billion, and now it's at like $25 billion. So you'd expect to see an increase in the price of pharmaceuticals at an equivalent level, because the amount that they're paying for R&D is increasing as well.
Yeah, that was kind of my argument as well, as to say like they could have some increases somewhere, and like it makes sense that they're going to raise prices somewhere to keep it to keep their profit share at the same.
Yes, but I'm not even talking. You're not even responding to me, because I understand that. I already said I understand that's what companies are going to do. I understand that their prices will increase with that. But when they had the extra capital, but she's pointing
over whether or not she lied, though. It's like that's the entire point.
She's the focus at a policy failure. She's pointing out a policy failure by moralizing a corporation. You can disagree with that.
It's not a policy failure.
The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act wasn't? You think Trump's tax cut was good?
Specifically, the line of attack against the policy proposal, that there is more buybacks is not a good argument against the policy proposal. There may be other arguments that are good arguments against the policy proposal, but that specific line of attack is a bad line of attack because that can still lead to R&D. In fact, when we look at the CBO, the amount of R&D, I mean, we can go back even further. Back in 91, it was all the way down. The total R&D for new drugs was down at like 10 billion, and now for the total amount for 2019, it's at 90 billion. Right, so like these are dramatically increasing over a period of time, and also the number of drugs that are approved each year is also increasing, but not to the same degree.
So you don't think she was pointing out
was a
that
bad
there
attack.
is an issue that companies have too much money that they're not spending? If there was capital do you think Donald Trump's tax plan was good, or was it a policy
On a writ
failure?
large level, no, I don't think it was good because I think that it disproportionately helped wealthy people who didn't need it.
Because I think what she was doing is saying there's a lot of capital here being used in ineffective ways. It's not for the public health; it's for this company's health. She's pointing that out through this rhetoric.
Right, but she's wrong. She's wrong. It is for the public health. That there are buybacks can still be in the interest of the public health because that money is being isn't just like disappearing and just going back into rich people's pocket. It's being reinvested from rich people's pockets into other pharma companies, and those other pharma companies, as we can see, are increasing the number of people, or excuse me, the number of drugs that are being manufactured, and likewise, they're increasing the amount of R&D that's being spent to get to those drugs.
Well, we can't look at just new drugs being manufactured because they get around that a lot of different ways. Because we could look at every time that they relabel drugs or change the name of drugs or make slight adjustments to drugs, and you could run down that whole tree.
That's
But I mean,
true.
if you're
That's been
saying
true
you're
for a
saying the
while,
money is being
right? That's been
best
true for a while.
used how it is right now, and what do you have a personal your personal go-to fix for drug costs in America? Do you have like your own
I mean, I think that having a single buyer would be a hell of a lot better than having a bunch of different buyers. If you
So-
compare the amount that we're paying for most drugs to the amount that single payer systems are paying per person, it's dramatically higher in our country because there is not the sort of monopsony that other countries do have. And I want to have a monopsony to fuck over the pharma companies more than they're getting fucked over in the United States.
So what
where
about
they're
like
a
right
monopoly
now?
other than experiencing monopsony?
What about like right now? If would you be for something that allowed like Medicare or Medicaid to negotiate prices? Right now, you like those policies?
Sure. Yeah.
Another thing that I think she was doing with her rhetoric is what Bernie did with a lot of his healthcare plan. I think Bernie was, you can call him dishonest for how he portrayed his healthcare plan as well. Because it isn't as straightforward as he makes it seem. Like when Bernie says countries around the world have systems like this, that isn't true. There is no system that covers as much as Bernie Sanders' proposal would have covered, but he still ran on that because it worked. It's good rhetoric. It's good. It's a good way to sell a policy. I think if you are saying, hey, guys, Katie Porter, there needs to be something done about drug prices. There is money being given to these companies through tax breaks, and this money being given to them is not being used effectively or in the way that's best for the public interest. You can argue, like you said, you can make arguments for why buybacks can be good. Like they're not, you could say like they're not a negative if companies do that, but it's not the best way for capital to be used because it should be that our money is invested into, like you said, you would prefer like a single payer negotiation or a Medicaid and Medicare negotiation or a single payer. So there's, like you said, what's the word again? Is it? I don't want to say it wrong.
Monopsony is single
Monopsony.
buyer. Monopoly is single seller.
Monopsony, because I always say I forget the S. Monopsony.
Yeah, monopsony.
Yeah, because you want that. That's what I think she was doing with her rhetoric there. Even if I agree, her rhetoric wasn't perfectly technical. But in politics, you're never gonna find, or you're very seldomly gonna find somebody who's using extremely technical language for everything. She has the whiteboard out for a reason. She knows that people are going to be watching and spreading that.
I think it's fair to hold someone like Elizabeth Warren or Katie Porter to a higher standard than the average politician, just because they have such a background in academia that they 100% know exactly what's going on. And when they make a decision not to say what's going on, it is a little different when they do it than when, some imbecile does it who doesn't quite understand what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't hold AOC to the same standard that I hold Katie
I would
Porter
say
in terms of level.
I
of
would say they
truthfulness.
just know how to navigate the political arena. Like that's how you need to present these issues to people. You're bringing out the whiteboard because obviously the whiteboard is so people share it on social media. Like, oh, look, that's Katie Porter's thing, right? Katie Porter with the
Yeah.
whiteboard, there it is. That's her big thing, and that helps her reach a lot of people that she wouldn't otherwise be able to reach. And I think she keeps enough. My big thing is it needs to be
But the
as
whiteboard
close to
is
the
a
truth
statement,
as
right?
possible and as convincing as possible. But you can't let go of your ability to convince people because you want to overdo the logic portion.
I guess my concern is like the whiteboard is saying something publicly, and that thing that it's saying is, hey, look at me, I'm an academic. And it's true that she is an academic, that she really does have like a serious academic background in a way that most people in her position don't. And I think that it's a little bit dangerous when people with a real academic background start spouting nonsense in an academically with the auspices of academia, like sort of behind them as they do it. And so
But it
using that
wasn't it
whiteboard,
wasn't nonsense though. We kind of ran
it
through
was.
it wasn't
And she was
nonsense.
attacking an individual company for doing something that was in
That
with the interest
companies
of the individual
in their own
company.
self-interest.
And
Yeah, in the company's
similarly,
self-interest.
and likewise, she was attacking an individual company for doing something that not at the individual level, but rather at the generalized level, was in fact not bad.
But
For the
she was still
industry of
pointing
pharma to be
out the
doing
money
what
they are
what
using
she was
here should
describing
be
is not a
used.
problem.
It can be used much more effectively elsewhere. It wasn't
And
complete
it is being
nonsense.
used. But it is being used more effectively
can-
elsewhere. When it's sold off there, it doesn't disappear. It gets reinvested elsewhere. And so the aggregate effect is something that ultimately does lead to buybacks. When you're doing a dividend, that money is immediately reinvested, right? In most cases, literally less than 10 minutes after you get the dividend, it is already being reinvested.
But without, okay, we're talking about proportions of what they did with the excess, because without that tax bill in 2017, it's a totally different conversation. I'd have to look at what companies like this did before that huge top cutting tax cut, and then after to see what how their practices changed. And I'd have to look at every individual company, and I'd have to actually look through the information you're bringing up. But I'm playing Call of Duty right now, so I'm not gonna do that. If you want to do it another time, we can. But
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I still, do you have a problem? Or how would you have, if you had to make an argument in the same position as Katie Porter, do you have a way that you would have like given an argument? And by the way, it needs to be convincing. It can't just be like a whiteboard type thing. Like, is there a certain way that you would give it?
I mean, if you're asking it, how would I attack the tax policy?
Let's say you're in Katie Porter's, like you're literally in her position talking to this company. You don't have to be attacking them, I guess, but if you're asking questions, what would you ask? What would you want to know? What policies would you push for?
I would ask how much their CEO made in the last year. And
did.
they would tell me an absurd amount. And I would ask, what percentage of that money did your CEO pay in taxes? And they would say, I don't have to tell you that. And I would say, okay, well, I already have the answer, because I would have the answer. And then I would ask them, how much money has the company itself paid in taxes? And they would say, I don't know, which would be a lie. But then I would say, haha, but I do. And then I would say, haha, it's a very small number. And I would ask, how has that changed over the last 15, 20 years? I would ask an arbitrary number, but the number wouldn't actually secretly be arbitrary. The number would be a number that would make it look like it has decreased the amount that they've been paying precipitously, like over time. And I would point out that they have increased in the size of the company, but simultaneously decreased the amount of money that they're actually giving into the country. And I would ask them if they think it's a problem for a multi-billion-dollar company not to be paying serious taxes and to be paying less taxes than a middle-class member of society. And then I would ask, I would go into like a bunch of detail. Say it again. What were you saying, Tom?
Sorry.
Two of them. There were two of them.
And then I would go into like if I were specifically Katie Porter, then I would do some some math and be like, okay, how many classrooms would I be able to pay for if I had gotten the 10% that you should actually be paying us, or the 15, 20, 30% that you should actually be paying us. That's $27 billion, whatever the fuck it is. How many people would be able to get childcare? How many trains could we be able to build with that? Like all of that
But
shit.
what
and just go
about
into a
drug
bunch of-
prices? What about drug prices though? Because yeah, I mean, she does that
Yeah.
already.
Oh,
But
that's how I would do it. With respect to how I would pressure them, make them look bad.
yeah,
and
but she
encourage
does
a
most of
change
what
in
you
the
said for
policy.
that. But the issue
Yeah,
is,
that's
how do you get people caring about like drug price reform? I'm trying to think about.
I don't think that this line of attack that she was proposing is correct, because I don't think that the law that she was going against is the law that has effectively created our problem in terms of drug prices. So what I would be asking instead would be, what is the amount that you're making people pay in England for this drug? And then I'd compare it to the amount that people are paying on Medicare or Medicaid. And I would also compare a bunch of private insurances payment for that same drug. And I would say, okay, it's interesting that we're paying 30, 40, 50% more than other countries. I don't like that. Do you think that the fact that we have that you're able to play off a bunch of different insurance companies in order to make sure that you get the best price that you want, rather than having to deal with one buyer, as places in other countries are able to do, because they're able to sort of use the power of the government, use the power of a single buyer. That's the whole premise of insurance, that you have a single buyer which helps you get it for a better price. What is that part of the reason that you're able to get it to be so much higher in this country? To which the obvious answer is fucking of course it is. Yes.
No, I have to go back and watch what she said again. All I remember are the circles. I don't remember anything she said. I'm trying to think though. Yeah, that's a good I like the comparative analysis. Like when Bernie does that thing where he goes in to Michigan and he like goes over the board. Remember when he did that? Did you see that video?
To go
Where
to
he had
Canada.
he had the bus of people who like went to Canada and got like a bunch of insulin for like $5 or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you see that
Yeah, it's pretty
Walmart?
badass.
Do you see the generic insulin Walmart is selling now?
No, I didn't.
It's a really, it's kind of scary. So apparently Walmart is trying to buy up a bunch of like loophole drugs like insulin and stuff, and they want to become like a health provider with this stuff. They're undercutting all the insulin providers that are charging these exorbitant prices.
What
which is
the heck?
you'd have to just look it up to get more information about it, but I thought it was really interesting. I know people are like, the free market always works. But it's scary to me that it takes Walmart saying we want to undercut the health industry so we can get a big up in it. You know what I mean? Like if people are relying on Walmart for their insulin and whatever else people need to, get for their health, it's kind of spooky to me.
Yeah, it is spooky.
I have to look up more.
Yeah, I
about
mean,
that.
part of the reason it's spooky is because you're having to make those decisions as your own, which
I'm coming in.
I am not an expert. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I think that most Americans feel the same way.
There's
It's much
somebody
better
right
when
there.
you have an insurance company responsible for it. But the problem is that because we have individual companies rather than the government writ large, they're always, number one, trying to fuck you over, and number two, like you can't expect them to even be have as much of a level of expertise across all forms of medicine in the way that you can if they're a single entity, if they're a single government entity, because you'd have a larger number of people involved in the process. And also, I can be pretty confident the government is probably not going to be giving me shit insulin, but I cannot say the same of Walmart.
Dude, this is such bullcrap.
I
We
agree,
just
Tom.
meleeed
I'm no
at
longer
each other
watching your
like 10
stream, but I should be
times and
watching your
kept
stream.
missing.
Why am I not watching your stream? That was very foolish of me. I'm terribly sorry.
Dead. Damn. Got one.
Yeah. Interesting indeed.
The one, the overall conversation. No.
Freaking crap, dude. That was quick.
The overall conversation is one of them was about absolute truth in politics. and how much you're allowed to deviate on rhetoric versus what you believe or like versus what the facts are. And one
Mhm.
thing that I saw with like Destiny is he thinks the $15 an hour minimum wage is a bad policy, but he would still run on it because he thinks it's politically advantageous, which I think is sort of off from his other principles, because I feel like that is lying. If you believe if I believe a policy is bad, but I'm gonna run on it and act like it's good, act like I think it's good because I know it's gonna help me politically, I think that kind of like um fires back at his own principle when it comes to that. I thought that was interesting.
Um. Yeah. I don't know.
Unless if
There's
he
a sense
just
in which like you're right that obviously that is not like you're clearly lying, and lying is as a general rule like bad probably, but also it is like objectively the case that Tom Cotton definitely knows that this whole election conspiracy nonsense is fucking bullshit, and yet he's saying it constantly. So like when the Republicans are so willing to lie to their base in order to rile them up, like does it really make sense for us to hold ourselves to such a high standard that we would never do that? I don't know.
But I don't even. I'd rather say the truth in a more convincing way. That's usually what I say. You know,
Well,
I don't want to lie, but
So I don't think that that's really like Destiny's position on the $15 though. Like it seems as though he likes it, but he doesn't like a federal minimum wage like in general. So like overall,
but
he like thinks it's good or it's going to be helpful, but his problem is not only like he argues against it most of the time because he feels like the arguments that people make for it are really stupid. So they'll just be like, "Well, just raise your prices. It's that easy. If you want to pay people $15, you can just raise your prices. It's not hard. If you can't do it, then you suck at business anyways, and you should just go out of business." It's like, okay, that's not true.
I
Like
was on the
there are
panel with
so
him
many
though.
businesses
Such
that are
bullshit,
paying
yeah.
like 32% plus in labor. Like that sort of hit where they're paying 725 and now they have to pay double. It like that you it's not that easy to raise your
But
prices
he
that much.
thinks the
But then on top
15.
of that,
He thinks it's a bad policy though. He has said that. I was on the panel with him when he said it.
I don't from
He's
what I
right.
understand, he
thing is that
thinks
he's right.
$15 is going to be helpful, but he doesn't like federal minimum
Well,
wage.
he
in
said
the
it'd be
first
helpful politically for the Democrats. He doesn't. He'd rather it be done by the state level. He doesn't like minimum wage at all. But he would push for the $15 universally
neither do I.
because he thinks it'll help Democrats. But like, because I remember when I said to him, we agreed that we need a better mechanism for the future other than the minimum wage that can adjust to the new productivity we're going to be seeing in our economy because we're entering a new generation. Once automation changes our landscape of what labor means and everything, we're going to need something other than minimum wage. It's going to be much more complicated. Minimum wage is like a really archaic way to do it, and we sort of agreed on that. But he outwardly just said like I don't like $15 universally, but it'd be good
Minimum wage
politically. So
doesn't do anything. Minimum wage like can only hurt people. That's the only thing it can do. Like if you want to help people who are not making enough money, the way to do that is to give them money. Like making a price floor only works if it's an actual price floor. And you're not actually making a price floor by making a minimum wage because you're just outlawing the ability for people to be able to buy it, to buy labor below that. But that doesn't mean that like there aren't people who are willing to sell labor at that level. You're just making it so that no one can buy or sell a labor that's worth less than $15 an hour, which is insane because there's a lot of people in this country who unfortunately are not worth $15 an hour. That's not a moral statement, just as a fiscal statement. They are not at a level in terms of the quality of their work that anyone is willing to pay them $15 an hour. And therefore, right now they're working for less than that. And if you make it illegal for them to work at less than that, they will simply not be able to work. And that is objectively worse than having, though admittedly shitty, a shitty job that pays you $7.25 is a hell of a lot better than a lack of a job that pays you $0 an hour.
Yes,
think
like
that's
that.
true.
This is getting priced out is one of the few things that like Republicans cried about before minimum wage that actually happens.
Yeah,
Yep.
but I think the transitionary period isn't. I mean, it would probably go smoother if it was longer. But I don't know if you've seen the latest data on what wages are right now. But the general minimum wage in most parts of America, although I'm sure there's like outliers in like really, really rural, poor, conservative communities in red states. But the true minimum wage, like where I'm from, for example, is $9, maybe $9.50 in PA, although it's like $7.25 officially, because people just won't work because of the tight labor market. So these adjustments are happening, and wage growth is expected to actually tick up, not as much as it would have if the $15 an hour would have passed. I forget what. Do you guys remember what it was? The $15 an hour bill. It was like 2022. It was going to go up to $10, and then
it
like
was
12, and then like 14, and then 15 in 2025 or something.
something like that. It took a while. Yeah.
Yeah, but like these adjustments are happening sort of naturally already, and it is hard for me to for my
It just seems indefensible. Like
it's
the
I think it's a
idea
decent
of a minimum wage is an indefensible framework of like how you can help poor people. If you want to help poor people, give more options to poor people. Don't take away options from poor people.
well
If
you're
you want to
s-
give options to poor people, give them UBI.
well I think it's a
right?
way to
Like,
to
give
force the
them money.
economy to change sort of, because you're forcing businesses to adapt to a new inflationary, like where the
You're not.
money system is right now. You're forcing like even the lowest business to pay $15 an hour, and as a result, if a business, because you know how like Walmart in PA, like the entry level positions are like they're hiring at like 10.50 an hour because they can't hire at any lower, or they can't get good workers. If the wage became $15 an hour, Walmart would not pay 15 an hour because of how the labor market works. Because small businesses are going to be paying $15 an hour. Walmart always outcompetes small businesses for good labor. So they'd probably go up to like $17 or $18 an hour for the entry level positions that are now $10. So it's really interesting to see how everything would adjust. And there's some, but the thing
Yeah,
is
so
too,
that's
there's so many
true.
conflicting studies on this about how this would play out. So it's hard to really pick which one is going to be the most correct.
The problem is that you're right that there are, for those laborers who are chosen to be the ones who are worth continuing to have hired, what's likely to happen is people have right now, let's say, 8 employees at their restaurant. And what's likely to happen is that they're going to say, oh, okay, it's increased. Right now it's $7.25 that we're paying, but now we have to pay 15. The effect of that is that they're going to say, okay, 5 of you are going to get 15. Some of those 5 are going to get 20 an hour, rather than currently getting paid, 14 an hour or 13 an hour. So for those 5 people, it's great. But for those other 4 people, they're just going to straight up get fired, and they're not going to get hired somewhere else because no one else is willing to pay them $15 an hour because they're not worth $15 an hour. They're worth 7, they're worth 10, but they're not worth 15. And so because of that, right now they're getting paid $10 an hour, which is shitty. There's no question that getting paid $10 an hour is a shitty way to live your life, obviously. But it's a hell of a lot less shitty to get paid $10 than to get paid 0. And like, I think that if you want to get someone who's currently getting paid $10 an hour to get to a place where they're able to get paid $15 an hour, the solution is to do that universally. The solution is to say, okay, here's $5 an hour to like all people, right? Here's some UBI. I am just going to give you $1,000 a month. I'm just going to give you money. I'm going to create a carbon dividend. I'm going to do the kinds of actions that just actually put money directly into the hands of people who are impoverished, rather than making these laws that will help the lower middle class, but will not actually help the bottom of the barrel, the people who are worst off in the entire society.
What do you think about a negative income tax? The
I'm
negative
okay with
income tax. The way I would look
I
at
think
it,
UBI is probably better,
the thing,
but I'm okay.
the only reason I would support the $15 an hour is reach. So like that's right now when it comes to fixing wages in America, that is by far the closest possible solution to even think about implementing when it comes to political will, who supports it, the organization around it, like UBI or like a negative income tax. My ideal system would be like welfare that doesn't ever have like a complete stop. So for example, let's say you're making $10 an hour now, but you end up getting a raise to make $15 an hour. So you move above the poverty line somewhere. So your benefits should cut off. I think benefits should end on like a sliding on like a slope, if that, you know what I mean, sort of. So like if you make $40,000, I think you should still get some benefit, because I want it to make sense for people to work for $7 an hour if they need to do that. So you get a lot of, or do you sort of know what I mean? Like you get a bigger stimulus if you're working for $7 an hour, but
Yeah.
if you're working for 40,000 a year, you're still gonna get some stimulus back from the government. And I think this really heals a lot of class divides, because one big thing that makes a lot of like people that make $50,000 an hour, one thing that makes them hate poor people is the idea that poor people are getting handouts. But I think if we had a system where everybody's benefiting to some extent, it was like a ladder up instead of just like a stop at the bottom. I feel like that's something that would be pretty positive.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think like the obvious answer to what you're suggesting is a carbon dividend. That's the most obvious answer. So a carbon dividend, obviously, number one, there's the climate component of it. I think that it is probably the best and likely the only real solution that we have. That'll fix our situation in terms of climate change at an international level. But the other thing that it does is it provides like real money. Eventually, it's going to get to a point that it's $300 a person. Now, admittedly, that's going to be like 2035 or something. But once it's racketed up all the way to its highest point, it'll be like $300 a month to every single person, every single citizen in the entire country, which is like a lot. That's like a non-negligible amount. But I think that is a much better and more implementable thing than just saying that you should be giving specifically to people who are the lower racket and not the people at the higher racket, because I think that universal ones, as you're saying, are probably better able to be maintained because they're more universally praisable, because it doesn't feel like a handout in the same way. Yeah, that's a silly argument. That's a silly argument. It just seems, yeah. I mean, like, I so I mean, okay. To clarify, put my cards on the table. I am a Georgist, so like, the way that I would describe what you just described is that there are a couple of billionaires who own the vast majority of natural resource value in the entire country, and so because there are a couple of billionaires who own the vast majority of natural resource value in the country, they're the ones who capture the vast majority of value. But I don't think that anyone should be able to own natural resources writ large. Ultimately, now it's very complicated to divest that, and I'm not saying that we should just like take everyone's fucking houses and shit, but like ultimately, I think that the reason for that is not because like we're all freeloaders. I think that that's because the majority of natural resources are being withheld from the majority of the public. Yeah. That's fair. I didn't realize that it's almost midnight. That's so upsetting.
Yeah, me too.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Tom, I'm
You
sorry
can
your stream was not ideal. It had all the
Yeah, it's
struggles.
okay. It's up now. It's working. Jolah,
That's
you
good.
can raid me now. Thank you. I still
Do
raid
the
people on
raid.
Twitch.
Do
I
the
still raid
raid.
people on Twitch. I'll post their links in my chat. I'm like, all right, everybody, just go over this one now.
That's so
Really?
dumb.
You can redirect them to another video? Saw that. Tomfoolery Show. YouTube.com/Tomfoolery Show.
Foolery show.
Yeah.
It's crucial that you get the show in there. Yeah, I agree.
Appreciate the game, Jolah.
I enjoy the convo. Yeah.
All right. Have a good night, man.
My goodness.